Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brainerd Homan, and I'm going to be talking about Cummins Diesel Engines. I'll scan the room here so we can see that I have an audience here. So, three people. So, like I said, what I'm going to be talking about today is Cummins Diesel Engines. All right. I'm going to be talking about how they came about and what impact the company had on modern day transportation. When we talk about diesel engines, most people think of semi-trucks, industrial equipment, tractors, a lot of which have a big part in creating and supplying food for humanity to survive. When looking into the heart of the power of that equipment, diesel engines, we can't go without talking about Cummins diesel engine manufacturers. One of the main reasons that I cared about this topic was because I've always been a huge fan of the products from an early age. I always liked looking at the symbol. It was a big C, simple, straight to the point. And I love the sound of the motors. I love the idea of them being used to create massive torque for work. And I love the hype associated with them. So, being that those initial interest points were very basic, as I grew, I researched more into why there was such a great hype, why they were used a lot in industrial work, and also why they sounded so unique compared to typical gas-driven motors. So, starting out, I want to talk about the technology, where it came from, and how it came about so that everybody knows what's going on. So, Rudolf Diesel was the first mechanical engineer to create the diesel engine throughout the 1890s. I'll cite that Britannica 2019. His technology was driven by wanting to create an engine much more efficient than the typical steam engine technology in his time. The basis of the diesel engine functionality was for it to pressure combust, meaning it would compress the fuel source to such a high temperature that it combusts with no other trigger than its own heat. Because it didn't have a spark plug trigger system to ignite the fuel like regular gasoline engines did, the sound of the combustion was extremely different than the typical gasoline motor sounded. All right, so Speech Cummins was a upcoming mechanical engineer, and he was working with, his hands pretty much starting out, doing a lot of maintenance around the farm and whatnot. And he started to show his talents to race car driver Ray Haroon, and they got together and started working. Clessy was Ray's mechanic / engineer for the race team, and they, got together and helped, win some races. Well, while they were in this, teamed up journey, Clessy got wind of diesel technology coming across seas through the company called HVID. And in 1919, with the backing of banker William G. Irwin, Speech Cummins founded the Cummins Engine Company in Columbus, Indiana. I'll cite that, Cummins 2012. With the start of that new company, there were many different models being engineered and produced with the purpose of yachts, farm equipment, and water pumps. With having issues with technicalities of purchasers in those markets, they switched their attention over to producing a new model engine that would ultimately be put into a passenger car and tested for their product use in that market. This innovation and train of thought was kind of like the initial groundbreaking move that led them to become the heavy-duty transportation king they are today. All right. Cummins diesel engines and automotive applications moving in that time proved to be the best direction for the company to try and gain success from. This was proven by the record-breaking feats that they succeeded with in, using some custom-made diesel engine cars that they fabbed up. The first car was a sedan they modified to accept one of the diesel engines they thought would be a good fit for automobile use. And when that was done and completed, it allowed them to drive from Indiana to New York in one gas tank. And if you do the math, it was about an 800-mile trip, and I think, it kind of led to about 26 miles per gallon efficiency. And I'll cite that for Wikipedia, Speech Cummins 2019. 26 miles per gallon at that time was a major feat. The second major road feat to prove the efficiency and viability of the motors was in 1931. They modified a cargo truck to accept one of the new different models they came up with. And they said, we want to try and attempt the New York to LA challenge and see, how long it would actually take them to, make it there. GM currently held the record for this challenge, completing it with a gasoline car, and it took them about 104 hours. Clessy modified a cargo truck to take a newer model over there, and he did it in like 96 hours, beating it by close to 7 hours and some change. The reason for this victory in record setting for that New York to LA trip was because the diesel engine was so efficient on fuel. He barely had to stop to get gas or diesel, I should say, and it was so less often that they were able to go straight through and beat it by 7 hours. He repeated the challenge again a couple years later, and but this time he said, I want to try and get it into a bigger industrial automobile, and they did it in a bus. And they tried one of the bigger, more heavy-duty engines that they came out with then, and made the trip and beat their own record by another 6 hours, which at that time was extremely significant because it was quicker than what a train would have taken back in those times, and that was way before they thought of any highways or main roadways that would be for cross-country travel. In 1931, the Cummins entered Indianapolis 500 as well. They did it by modifying a slightly smaller motor and integrated it into a smaller race car. The Indy 500 was a 500-mile course, and even though they didn't win, they were able to complete it in 1 gallon of gas, or 1 tank of fuel, the whole 500 miles. So, talking about automotive diesel efficiencies here, because those feats proved it, and I want to talk about the science behind it. So I interviewed Michael Costarell from YSU Mechanical Engineering Department, and he was able to explain the science behind it, and go ahead and click it. You can show here that the compression ratio was so greater on a diesel motor, the cylinder was able to compact more air into the actual cylinder to combust rather than a regular spark plug engine, like a gas engine. So the efficiencies in turn became a lot greater as well. All right, so the hype and the impact that I was kind of concerned with. The many industrial markets bought into this technology, seeing the feats that his company, the company's technology allowed him to do. More companies wanted to start implementing Cummins engines into their applications, and it didn't stop with just automotive. Although that was a big part of it, including the Volvo and Kenworth companies adopting their motors into their semis. It also extended to tractors and trains and generators, furthering on in their markets. The biggest thing with hype and impact was when Dodge wanted to implement them into their, medium duty pickup trucks such as 2500 and 3500s. So, like I said, growing up in a lot of family members and friends had hardworking trucks. A lot used Ford and Chevy because of their early diesel truck applications. When Dodge partnered with Cummins, like I said, they dwarfed the power that Chevy and Ford did. They did this because the Cummins recognized the higher compression ratio in the cylinders and said, okay, we're going to put turbos on our motors as well as direct injection. Ford and Chevy didn't have turbos. They weren't aware of the compression ratio differentiation, and they actually did an indirect injection that indirectly injected fuel into another compartment, and it was a minor inefficiency when actually burning that. So, with Dodge's success from Cummins implementation, it made firm ground roots of the need for light-duty diesel technology. It brought to light the need for these engines in civilian use, not just industrial. So now civilians can haul close to what semis can now in this day and age, because they're putting out numbers of 30 and 40,000 pound uses with that same 6BT application. So to summarize things up, all right. To summarize things up, I just wanted to take a look at how Cummins technology revolutionized the modern world from where it started, how their technology worked, and what kind of massive impact they had in society. The best thing about this company, in my opinion, is the fact that they are always innovating and continuously improving their products and technology. Looking ahead, Cummins has announced that they will be looking to produce fully electric semis, just like Tesla, and they do this with the intention to match or exceed their current diesel performance efficiencies. So I hope everybody enjoyed the information about a truly revolutionary company, and thank you for listening.